Welcome back to another episode of The Rundown, number 23, the big one, our Don Mattingly episode. It's going to be a good one, Brandon. We got a lot to talk about, but let me ask you first. How are you doing today, Brandon?
The fact that we have a Don Mattingly reference in this episode, I mean, we're all in right now. We are in the thick of it. Districts are around the corner. We already had pre-district slash quarterfinal games yesterday. We'll break down those scores as well as, hey, Joe, it turns out the Tigers listened to our last talk when we were saying their offense need to pick it up. And now look what they're doing the last four games. I mean, that's going to be
They've
fun
been
to
doing
talk
well.
about now.
They've been doing well. They've been doing well. But yeah, like Brandon said, district matchups is on the table today for both girls softball and boys baseball. And then we're going to close out, as always, with Tiger baseball talk and whatever other things that might come up. We'll just chat it up and make sure it's going. But we'll start off. I think softball is the right one to go for. Note this, if you want any information, Brandon had a fantastic article that's on WBRN.com. It's on news, everything you need to know, and it's got every type of matchup that's going to be coming up. He's going to update it as the games go on. But we've already seen the first round, so let's get into it. Brandon, where do you want to start?
I think we have to start, and it's a fitting starting spot considering all the great response we had to last week's episode. If you missed out on that, talk to Coach Roger Stieg of Reed City High School softball and the fantastic season that they had. They played last night, got a sweep against the Lake City Trojans, and boy, it was a dominant one. And for where this team is at, especially, I think you look at this district, and it's unfortunate that we have to see these two teams play in a district semifinal and not a final. But it's going to be an absolutely fantastic matchup there in District 72. That's going to be over at Chip Hills. Chip Hills against Molly Stanwood was the opener there for the softball scores. And based off of the information that we had, it was an absolute thriller. And it's the Mohawks beating the Warriors by 1 run at Chippewa Hills. What a big win for the Mohawks. So they
Big
will be
time.
moving on and they will be playing now the Lakeview Wildcats in round two. So it'll be the Mohawks and the Wildcats. And then we have the Wildcats and the Coyotes, two of the best teams in Division III, will be squaring off in the district semifinal. That game is at noon, and that game is going to be electric. You would like two offenses that hit the softball extremely hard and all the time. You got two with Everett and Reed City, and that's exactly what we should expect in that matchup on Saturday.
Absolutely. But don't worry, Reed City, talking to Coach Stieg last week, he said they've scheduled tough teams to prepare them for this round one matchup. So I think Reed City is going to be able to take this one away. And we're hoping, Reed City, we're in your corner over here at the rundown. And I hope that you can do some good work at 12 noon on June 1st. So other stuff happening. We'll move to District 73. One more up. We've already seen Grant versus Kent City. They played on the 28th. So by the time we're recording this, I think it's on Wednesday. They played yesterday. Kent City gets the job done 7-1. So the Tigers season is now come to a close. But Kent City is now facing off against Montague at 10 a.m. And then also the game following that one is North Muskegon versus Ravenna. Excuse me.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. And Kent City was expected to beat Grant, and they could honestly beat, even though the Wildcats have an advantage at home. Kent City plays really good fundamental softball, and I think they're definitely going to be the favorite if we had betting odds at the high school level, which we definitely don't, because we would be in mass trouble for that. I might have already spoken too much. I don't know where
You ain't hear
all of
nothing.
the
You ain't hear
yeah,
nothing.
pretty
All right.
much. Yeah,
Wipe the
now I think
memory.
there's some knocks on the door. The
We
Federal
won't tell if
Reserve
you
now
don't
wants to
tell.
know. Yeah, but anyway, I think there's going to be some good matchups here. Kent City against Montague. That game, obviously, Kent City, the favorite on paper. Montague is going to have the community back, not only for the softball, but baseball will also be over at the complex. So they're going to have as many fans as you can ask for. But I think especially when you look at this from an analyst perspective, they're going to be looking at the second game. If you're looking at the favorite out of this district, North Muskegon, boy, they've had a fantastic year on the diamond, baseball and softball. And especially with Ravenna last year, they made a really deep postseason run, and they have phenomenal depth on that team. 1 through 9, they can hit it, and they can really take advantage on the base path. So they're going to be a tough team to beat. But North Muskegon, I mean, they got everything going for them. We'll talk about the boys when we get over onto the baseball side. But I think right now Kent City's in a good spot, looking at a potential district final appearance. But they're going to have their hands full if they do get there with either the Norsemen or the Bulldogs there in the championship.
For sure. There's a few more districts on the softball side that we need to talk about. I don't know which one I want to go in next. Do you think District 38, Brandon, is that a good one?
We can go to District 38. That one's Newaygo. No quarterfinals in this one. There's only 4 teams in District 38. This is Newaygo's to lose. That's one of the things I put in the preview in this article. And I think especially when you look at these teams, Newaygo is by far the team that has taken the step forward this year. Tri-County's really still trying to get back on the horse a little bit. Sparta and Fremont are very good clubs, and they will definitely be competitive. But on paper, this is Newaygo's to lose. They really proved themselves in the conference season. We talked about Reed City. We talked about Big Rapids, great seasons that they had battling for 1 and 2. But Newaygo was right behind. They were in a lot of these games, and you got to give their coaching staff a lot of credit because they did a really good job managing and really taking advantage in some of these close games. And I think that's something the Lions are going to really have on their back. Being at home as well only adds to their odds here this weekend. And I think that's certainly going to be a really good district for them to win, just based on they've seen a lot of these teams, whether it's this year or in years past. And right now, they're the best team on paper. So if they can get the job done, it's really theirs to lose here in that district.
For sure. Another District 37. That's Big Rapids. That's going to be at Shepherd. Big Rapids and Freeland play tonight, I think. Because I know the boys' baseball game got canceled today, didn't it?
Yes, so that is actually true. The softball matchup that was supposed to be last night was postponed until Wednesday. So those 2 teams will be playing. We don't have the score yet as we're obviously recording that pre-matchup here on Wednesday. But, I mean, it's not too often that you see 2 district title teams from a year ago playing in the opening pre-district round in District 36. I think that's crazy. But obviously, the draw is the draw, and you just have to really play the hand you're dealt in this epic card matchup. But Big Rapids and Freeland, 2 really good teams. Freeland not as good as they were last year, but still very tough team. Big Rapids, obviously, it's really kept their role from last year. But really, I mean, the winner will play Swan Valley. The Vikings are a stingy team. They know how to really win some big games. And then you have Alma and then arguably Shepherd, who has home field advantage in consideration with them in Big Rapids as the 1-2. You might lean that way just because they're on their home diamond. But right now you're looking at Shepherd potentially playing Big Rapids on paper. But obviously that district, you look at a lot of the other districts, this one might be the most competitive, except I think there will be one more that I think is probably the tightest district, which I think we'll go over to District 95 to talk about that one because it's going to be an electric factory, as you would say, my partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for the reference. Also, it's District 37. Brandon, you said 36. Just wanted to correct that right here so there's no confusion. But yeah, District 37, Big Rapids and Freeland opening round. That one's coming up. We'll make sure to get the information for you. And also, thinking back to Brandon's article, he's going to have everything updated as the time goes on. So you can go back to that too for any future references that you might need. But you said District 35 is the one we want to talk about next?
95 is the one. That
Take it
is
away,
going to be
big
a good
dog.
one. That's going to be a good one. Midland Bullet Creek is where this one's going to be at. And I looked at all 5 teams. And for those that aren't familiar, the team that is represented from the CSAA in this district is Central Montcalm. So it's a little bit down south, but I think it's worth noting how stacked this district is. You have Ithaca, St. Louis, Bullet Creek, and then you have Central Montcalm and Hemlock. The worst team in that district is 17-4. The best team is 22-10. I'm not a math major, Joe, but that's only a 5-game difference in the win column between 5 teams. This is going to be an electric district. These are all winning good softball clubs, and obviously there's some that are moving up from lower caliber of conferences, like Hemlock, for example. But you look at a lot of the head-to-heads, a lot of these were close games. Right now, ironically, it's probably Bullet Creek that's the favorite, and that's not just because they're at home. It's because they're the best battle-tested over on the East Coast. But I think especially when you look at really how stingy of a district that is, I mean, it is going to be a really fun one to watch just from afar, just because of the fact that we don't get to see a lot of these teams, but we know how good those programs are in terms of athletics as a whole. So it's going to be a really good one to watch, and we wish the Hornets the best of luck.
Yeah, that one's going to be cool. I'm glad you brought that up because kind of on paper, you don't really see it because some teams are moving up and stuff, but that is going to be a very competitive one that we're going to keep our eye on. I think the last one we have to talk about is District 108, right? We haven't mentioned that yet.
Yes, 108. This one is at Marion. It's right now listed as Friday games. We weren't sure if that was an error on the MHSAA site, but right now it is scheduled for Friday, and this will be Marion, Pentwater, White Cloud as the CSAA representation. They are in the semifinal round. They'll wait against Mason County Eastern or Pentwater, whoever wins that pre-district matchup, which will have taken place last night. No score reported as of yet that we've gotten it. We'll make sure to update it if we get it. Or actually, no, I did get updated. I think if I look it up, yes, 8-4. So Pentwater will be playing White Cloud, which is expected. Pentwater is the better team. So they'll be playing White Cloud, and then Marion will be playing the Holton Red Devils, who are definitely the favorite in that district for sure. They're a very good team. They always have been. I think I counted back. The last time that team has not won 20 games has at least been back to about 2013, 2014. And that's only because the MHSAA hasn't
Dang,
updated
dog.
all of the win totals. They know how to win games. So they're going to be the favorites, no doubt. They have the history to back them up. White Cloud, they can get to the final. They're better than Pentwater, but they're going to have their hands full trying to take down Holton, who's a fundamentally solid and above solid club, especially hitting softball.
That's for sure. We're very excited too to kind of see how these next few games play out. A lot of them is going to be on June 1st. So make sure, I think on June 2nd, will you be able to get those scores updated if the information is out, Brandon?
We're going to try our best. Me and JT will be on it all afternoon. And so if you check out online, WBRN.com, you will be up to date with all of the score reports here from softball and as well baseball.
Yes, sir. Big time. So keep an eye out on it. We're going to move to baseball now. Which one kind of catches your eye off the rip? Maybe one that's kind of pretty exciting, one that people might not think is as competitive as it might be. I know you're kind of expert on this, Brandon. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think we'll start with 37, which will be Big Rapids. But first, I do want to make sure that we get this in, and we thank our friends at Michigan 8S Calibrations and Glass. Our whole episode is brought to you by them. Any make, any model, windshield replacements, whole calibrations. You can find out more at Michigan8S.com, and they do great work. They've been a great partner of us. They take care of your vehicle, and they get the job done right the first time, so big thanks to them. But 37 is going to be a fun one. Obviously, Big Rapids will be playing against Whitehall. They're in the semifinals. That's, of course, the game probably everybody's looking forward to around our area and our radio network because there's a lot of history between those two teams. They played basketball, and in basketball, the Vikings, Joe, you know as much as I do, having went to that game, they got the revenge from the football loss in the postseason in a big way. So this is going to be the tiebreaker. This is going to be the one that settles all the marbles. So, but Newaygo and Ludington, that was a great pre-district game. Ludington edges out the Lions 5-4. So the Ludington Orioles will be playing against the Fremont Packers. So that's going to be a fun team to watch. Newaygo especially is a good team this year. And the fact that they went down just shows how Ludington, their offense might be able to do something here in the postseason. They've showed sparks very throughout the year. The consistency's been the question, but if they get hot, they're a team to watch. And right now they do appear to be one of those teams that we can watch against Fremont and see what they do. But I think especially Big Rapids and Whitehall, every analyst probably that sees this, the winner of that game is going to win the district. So there's going to be a lot of marbles on the table when those teams do battle. I believe that game will be at noon. And so you head on over to the Cardinal Stadium over there just in Big Rapids High School. Cheer them on, wear your navies, and we'll see you guys there because that's going to be a fun game to certainly watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Newaygo this year I think they were a pretty middle of the road team, kind of final, I guess you say record and stuff like that, but they were still a very solid team that kind of gave the CSA a few fits. I mean, 25 wins is very, very respectable. And for them to get knocked out first round, I think that says how much good that Ludington team can do. So Ludington and Fremont's going to be a good game. Whitehall and Big Rapids, like you said, it's a tiebreaker. So keep an eye out on that one. There's some bad blood in the water right there. Next one, I think just we'll move on down the line. District 39. This one I'm pretty excited for, seeing that my alma mater is in there, but this year they've kind of been struggling a little bit. So, hey, like I said, you never know what can happen in these district games. Everybody's 0-0, but right now Sparta beat Grant in that pre-district game 5-1. But they'll be playing Belding, and then it's going to be Comstock Park and Tri-County at noon. Any thoughts on this one, Brando?
Yeah, I think Sparta winning over Grant was quoted as expected. Sparta was the better team on paper. They had shown it statistically. Grant was definitely a stingy team and put up a pretty good fight. But Sparta just got out ahead of them and kept that lead to win that one. So I think we're now going against Belding. I think Sparta will go in as the favorite, as they're arguably the one that's the favorite to probably win this district. Just based on obviously their schedule is always very good year after year. That club is ready for the postseason. They've shown it time and time again. They ended my career back in 19 in dominant fashion. They unloaded on us, and I believe in the fifth or the sixth, even though it was only a 2-run game until that point. So they're definitely going to be the team to watch. But I think especially Tri-County Comstock Park, that's going to be an intriguing matchup because Tri-County is definitely going to be slept on as a team with only 8 wins. But Comstock Park is a team that's been very up and down this year. They've had some struggles pitching, and I think that definitely could be something that Tri-County can take advantage of if they get the hot bats that day. And so I think that's going to be a really intriguing matchup because either team's going to have a good shot against Sparta, obviously making the district final. It's going to be tough against the Spartans as they'll be the favorite. But if the Tri-County team can get the bats going, Joe, your alma mater might be in the district final. That might be fun to see.
I didn't say it, man. You said it, but I'm loving what you're saying no matter what. Okay, District 70 at Everett. This is for you here, Brandon. This one you're going to be paying attention to, saying that your Coyotes are in this one. They're going to be playing McBain in the district matchup on 12, or excuse me, at 12 noon, not on 12. No, I guess you could say either way, but it's going to be Pine River and Everett the game before. Pine River got there by beating Harrison 8-4. I think this one's going to be an interesting game. I mean, McBain and Reed City are pretty similar records, if I'm not mistaken. I think Reed City's 16-14, and then McBain is somewhere around there. If I can, 13-14. So just a separation of a few wins. I do think the Coyotes, especially if they toss out Max Hammond, I think he's slated to start, or they might save him and try to play the long game if they can make it past the first game. Who knows what they're going to do? But I think Reed City's going to be able to do pretty well, seeing that McBain kind of plays in a little bit lower of a conference so far, and seeing a lot of their opponents, they've been playing pretty solid teams, but just their performance has been a little bit rough. I think they only were maybe 2 wins in the last 6 games. So who knows what's going to happen? But my vote's for Reed City. What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I think especially when you look at the matchup between McBain and Reed City, I think Reed City has an advantage hitting wise, and I think that's really kind of the mantra that they're going in with. If they can take care of their fielding and be able to really get the bats going early, they're going to have a really good chance to get to McBain early, and they're going to win that game to get to the district final. But as you mentioned, Joe, Coach Grant is going to have a big decision to make. Is he going to play it safe and just get Max on the mound so he can get through McBain because he's very capable of doing it? He's one of the best pitchers in the area, and there's no doubt about it. Just to reach that district final game, is that really the biggest concern? Or is it, if we're going to win the whole thing, they're going to have to trust one of those secondary arms like Caleb Summers to get on the mound and throw a gem. And I think that's really been the struggle for them this year, is they've been able to really have a good game 1. Game 2, they've kind of fell back just because the pitching depth is not as good as it was in years past with this club, and they've really been fighting through it. So I think that's going to be the biggest decision. But I mean, Everett and Pine River, that should be a whale of a contest, and especially the rivalry between those two schools. It's kind of one that kind of slips under the cracks a little bit because they don't play each other as often as they should. It feels like, it kind of feels like it should be that Reed City Big Rapids rivalry, but they don't necessarily play twice a year as much as they used to. So I think that's going to be a fun one. Obviously, Pine River is really playing with some momentum. Coach Rupert, he's picked up his 700th win just over the last couple of days. That's a big milestone for him, and his players are certainly loving it. And I think that's going to be interesting against Coach Johnson's Wildcats. They were always fundamentally solid, and they will steal runs and manufacture runs as much as they can. So that's going to be a really fun matchup. I'm really looking forward to watching it because this is also a very evenly distributed powerhouse across the District 70. As far as all these teams are good, they're all capable of being each other. So really, we could flip a coin to decide who's going to win this district, and it might be better odds than us talking about it and analyzing every stat in the book.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, but I think especially going to that Pine River and Everett game, that just leaves a lot more on the table too now to see if Max Hammond's going to be pitching game 1, or he's going to have to go up against a possibly a 21-win team in Pine River who's going to be able to get the bats going pretty well. So a lot of decisions there for District 70. You guys should let us know too. Reach out to us on our respective emails and just hit us up. Who do you think is going to win these districts and stuff? We'd love to know what your thoughts and plans and maybe predictions are for this upcoming weekend. District 72 at Montague. This one has Kent City in there as a CSAA representative. No pre-district games, straight into 6-1. It's going to be sick. Montague Montague and Ravenna, they're playing at 10 a.m. And then we're going to have North Muskegon and Kent City right after that.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting one just because it's really an uphill battle, unfortunately, for the other 3 teams, as they're going to have to deal with one of the best teams in the state of Michigan in North Muskegon, #1 in Division III. They are a team that no doubt will be probably favorites to win the whole thing. So it's going to be tough sledding for Kent City. There's no sugarcoating it. Kent City's going to have to play one of the best games that their program has ever played to get past North Muskegon. It, of course, is possible. It is not really probable with how good this Norseman team is this year. They've won 30 games. That's all you have to say about that. But Montague Ravenna, those two teams have history. That's going to be a really fun matchup to see. Both teams can swing the bats really well. They're really good at capturing momentum. So I think that's going to be a really fun game to just look and see what that score line ends up. It might be one of those 11-10, 10-9, 9-8 type of games. And so that's going to be fun. And they're going to have the right to play North Muskegon likely in the district final. So if they can get some positive, really, so a lot of positive momentum with the bats, maybe that carries over in game 2 and they get the Norsemen shaking in their boots a little bit. But right now, if you put it on paper, it's going to be the Norsemen. And they honestly, for how good this team is, not trying to hype them up any more than they already are, they might win this district without playing all innings of each game. I think that is a very good possibility. And so all these teams, they're going to have their hands full trying to slow down this Norseman team that's really looking at their eyes as we're going to get to the regional final. We're going to get to Michigan State to be able to play for a state championship. And that's really in their minds right now. It's hard to say, but I don't think they're going to be too worried about getting out of this district.
Yeah, I think I agree with you with probably calling a little bit early. 11 of their wins so far have been called in 6 innings or less, which is pretty darn solid. And a lot of their other games, they've been posting up double digits, and their team and their opponents are usually held to 1, 2, or 3 runs. So this is a very good North Muskegon team. I don't want to count Kent City out by any means, obviously, but it's gonna be a tough game. They're gonna have to bring their A game no matter what. But I think if you're a betting man, again, you can't bet on a high school sports, but I would say bet on the Norsemen to get this one out of District 72. District 74 at Chip Hills. It's going to be Chip Hills and Morley who are the representatives from the CSAA, but the pre-district game between Clare and Farwell, heavily into Clare's favor, 15-0. They make it into that one. They're going to be playing Lakeview at 10 a.m. Lakeview has been known to they gave Big Rapids some fits a little bit. They've kind of been a team that can come out of nowhere. And for this district specifically, this could have we got a 75% chance to have a CSAA champion. So Clare's got the cards stacked against them, but we'll see if they're able to pull this one out.
Yeah, I think when you look at what the paper analytics would say, Claire will probably have more of almost a 50 to 60% chance of beating the CSAA just for how good those are. But I like those odds though, Joe, the 75%. I think Chip Hills has a good shot. They're at home. They're a 20-win team. They have been able to beat teams, either it's just grinding out a split against a really good club. You've seen them play very competitively with a lot of teams across the CSAA and in their non-conference schedule. So you like their chances. They got some really good athletes, gear sellers. Those guys can hit the baseball. They can get on base and score. So I think that certainly plays into their favor. But Claire's a powerhouse with the bats. And obviously 15-0 against Farwell certainly shows that. And it's obviously a testament to how good that team is and how they have been so good. I mean, obviously, you look at last year in that district title run, you see how good they really were then, and they've continued that into this year. So Lakeview's going to have their hands full. But, Joe, you mentioned it. They've made some noise. They upset over Big Rapids last year, so don't count it out of the cards in this game. But I think Morley Chip, that should be an interesting matchup. We saw how good it was in softball. Maybe we see the same there in baseball. But right now, Claire's the team to catch. But Chip Hills, I think a lot of people might be counting them out a little bit, especially being at home. That gap might feel like this, and it's probably right about there. They are in this, and if they can win and they play Claire, they're going to have a good shot, and I think it's going to be an even matchup.
I completely, I can't even talk today, man. What is up with me? What's my deal? I completely agree with you, Brandon. I mean, it's kind of tough to do like an analyst like type of program when we agree so much. It doesn't show super great content, but at least we're bringing you what you need to know. So District 77, the last one on the docket for baseball. Central Montcalm took on Ovid Elsie in the pre-district game on the 28th. They were able to win that one 4-3. So they continue on. They're going to be playing St. Louis at Paloma Westphalia High School at 10 a.m. And then the teams on the other side of the bracket, Paloma Westphalia and Ithaca for 12 noon. So going to see how this one plays out. But Central Montcalm was also a team that was in the conversation earlier on this year to see if they could take home the CSAA regular season title. They didn't, obviously, but still a team that has some good talent over there.
Absolutely. The numbers will say we're going to see Pirates and Hornets in the district final. And I would probably tend to agree with those numbers. No disrespect to St. Louis, but the Sharks have really kind of struggled this year, and they've definitely trying to get their footing looking into next year. So I think Central Montcalm, especially, this is perfect situation for them. They're going to probably throw a secondary arm against St. Louis, and they're going to keep Emmett Ligament until that final against probably Pewamo Westphalia, and that plays into their favor perfectly because he is the guy. If they're going to win and go far, they're going to need him in those big games. He's going to have to win game 2, and maybe they would consider throwing him in game 1. But if you're looking long term, if you got to have a secondary arm step up to keep him going until you can get to a championship, a regional final, a district final, and even a state final. If they're thinking that far, which obviously they would if they're optimistic, they're going to have to win game 1 with another arm. And I think this is a perfect way for them to kind of try to get that rotation going, because he's going to light it up in game number 2. I'll be excited to see whether it's the Yellow Jackets or whether it's going to be the Pirates. Yeah, those are both really good teams. That one really, in my mind, don't look at the records as a coin flip. And I think we might see one team maybe squeak out by 1 or 2 runs, but we'll just wait and see. But right now, Central Montcalm, even though they got a considerably bad draw since they're going to have to play 3 games as opposed to 2, their outlook's looking pretty good right now, especially taking down an Ovid Elsie team that is very much battle tested through a very tough schedule this year. So that's a good starting point for them, and the odds are really looking in their favor.
Yes. That's it, though, for this kind of pre-schedule, like look around of this district matchups that we can expect. Let us know. Shoot us a message. Big Country's Facebook page, Daily News Facebook page, Y102 Facebook page, whatever one you want to shoot us a message on. Let us know and who you got your eye on for this upcoming weekend of district play. It's going to be sick, going to be great, and a lot of champions are going to be crowned. Hopefully, a good amount from the CSAA because we want to keep this thing rolling into regional and maybe even all the way to Michigan State if some of these teams make it. But we'll see, and time will tell for that one. We're going to hop now into the professional side of things, if that sounds good with you, Brandon. Tigers baseball, they kind of listened to us, Brandon, these last few games. And especially, I think the game against the Pirates is going on right now. Last time I checked, we were up 8-0. So, liking where we're at, a little bit better than we were last week. But Brandon, kind of just chat to us about what you're seeing so far in this past week of Tiger baseball.
Boy, the bats are alive, aren't they? Matt Vierling is the man. He is absolutely raking right now. He had a 2 home run day, including the 3-run walk-off earlier against the Jays, and what was one of the best baseball games of the whole year. 14-11 scoreline doesn't come by too soon and too common. So that was really fun to watch. But right now, Tariq Skubal is throwing gems. He had his first loss the other day, but he's already shaken it off into a great outing today as we're recording this on Wednesday. No runs given up through 5 innings plus if he keeps going. And I think that's really done well. Reese Olson finally got his first win for throwing identical numbers, as we mentioned the last time, Joe, with Tariq Skubal, and he wasn't winning any games. And now he finally won one. So hooray. Good job, Reese. You deserve it because you're pitching way too good to be an offer right now, and he definitely deserves that win. But I think when you look at the bats, Javi has really stepped it up. Torkelson, his power is starting to come back. Matt Vierling has stepped in really well into the lineup, providing that spark this team needs. Kerry Carpenter has really had a pop in his bat. It's unfortunate now he's on the 10-day IL, but we'll get him back. Badu's going to be coming up, and of course, we know he can make a lot of plays. So I think this club's in a good spot right now. Obviously, we were on a little bit of a skid, but whatever it did to end up getting that game, starting that win streak, get the day off, keep it rolling. Right now, it's looking really promising for the Motor City, and I hate to say it, Joe, because we dissed it so much on one of the episodes. They're doing pretty good in the City Connect, so they might have to wear them more.
Might have to. They're growing on me a little bit. The only thing is, I wish we said it in the episode. What was it 2 episodes ago? I wish they tossed in some orange, man. I guess you can leave it up to the batters if they want to wear orange gloves. I mean, I think Canada does. I think Vierling wears orange gloves as well. But just a hat, man. Why do we just put Detroit? I don't know. Okay, that's the conversation for the last 2 episodes. So whatever. But I'm loving where we're at so far. It's kind of a nice little turnaround. We'll see if we can keep it going. I've also kind of noticed this. Javi Baez, for as much as we give him kind of a bunch of junk about how he doesn't swing the bat very well ever, he's 412 with runners in scoring position. So he's been kind of one of the main guys of driving batters in or keeping those kind of those 2-out rallies alive. And he's been doing pretty well. So, I mean, it's just going to be time will tell throughout the whole thing. We don't know. I mean, like we've already said, the mantra is it's a 162 game season. So a little 10 game span, is going to be as much as we can take it right now. Hopefully it continues on. But like you said, Reese Olson finally getting his first win was huge. The thing is if you look at our pitching staff, Reese Olson and Tariq Skubal have they have the 4 and 5 best ERAs in baseball right now. We would have three of the best ERAs in the top 50 if Flaherty, he's just outside at 52. I think he has like a 3.84 ERA or something like that. Yeah, 3.84. It's just bullpen has to hold it down a little bit. Bats have to keep consistent when Reese Olson's out there. I think that's the bit. I don't know if it's just some juju or whatever that just because Scooble's out there, they're like, all right, let's hang an 8 spot or something. But the 2-3 run performances whenever Reese Olson is out there is not going to cut it, especially when he gets taken out the 6th inning. Bullpen is kind of fallen down a little bit, not a crazy amount. I mean, we're still one of the top ones in the league. It's just got to make sure the consistency is there. But like we said, and I don't want to like kind of keep beating a dead horse or anything like that, but it's a 162 game season. You're going to have flare ups. You're going to have flare downs. You're going to have those spots of just consistently mediocre type of deals. But I'm liking where we're at so far in this last 10 game span, 6-5 now with the win over the Pittsburgh Pirates just now. So like where we're at, we're a little bit farther back. I think we're like 10 games behind from first place now, maybe 9 with the win. We'll have to see what Cleveland does in these next few games. But I'm liking where we're at. Way to listen to us, Detroit. You did good.
You did good for sure. And Gio Urshela is back, and that is important for the third base spot because there's really been some movement as trying to find some of the bats. And a lot of the guys that we would throw into that spot have kind of went cold a little bit. So you obviously look at a lot of these young guys. You looked at Torkelson for the longest time. Cole Keith is really kind of starting to figure it out a little by little. The consistency is obviously a concern with him. But I think especially you've seen Torkelson's turnaround. I mean, the double machine continues. He's been fantastic getting extra bases. It's just the contact that we had some struggles with. But ever since that game-winning home run and that 2-home-run day, he's been absolutely on it. And that's great to see. Mark Canha, what an addition that's been. He's been the lead bat for us, and he has been an absolutely steady horse there in left field. And I think that's definitely something worth note. That was a great move by Scott Harris to bring him in. But Wencio Perez as well. That was a name we throw out, Joe, especially as a guy that was really kind of filling in. And he's done a great job. He's a young little playmaker, man. He really has a really good tendency to find those plays and make them. He's really good on the base paths. And obviously on both sides of the plate, he can mash a little bit. And I think that's something that heart of the lineup needs is a young guy with some pop. We got it with Carey. Wensil, when he's in, is also going to be in there. So right now, one thing I would say here, Joe, before we close out, don't be surprised if Javi Baez starts creeping his way up towards that cleanup spot. And it's because solely of the number that you threw out, Joe, because you know AJ Hinch loves looking at numbers, and he's going to be looking at that number saying, you know what? He's good with guys on base. He's struggled to get guys on base in front of him at some points, but when they do, he does capitalize. So do not be surprised, as crazy as this sounds, for what we've witnessed already this year. Javi Baez might be in the 5 spot in a couple weeks the way he's been hitting. Isn't that crazy to think about?
As much, yeah. As if this was like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and you said that, I'd be like, dude, you deserve to just be taken off this show. But numbers don't lie, and I mean, we're gonna have to see though with the kind of approach that opposing pitchers take now. If they move him up, if they're gonna do a lot of sliders, a lot of breaking balls to try to get him to chase. Get some bad contact, we'll see. But it seems like he just becomes a brand new guy when there's a guy on second or a guy on third. So we'll see how it plays out. But 412 with runners in scoring position, that speaks for itself. We'll see how it goes. Tigers, please stay consistent and keep this up because I would like some wins and I would like to watch the highlights without getting mad at the end. That's for sure. But Brandon, I think that's it for this week's episode of The Rundown. Does that sound good with you?
Hey, it's been a good rundown. Big thanks to you guys, the fans. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out Michigan ADAS Calibrations and Glass. They're great. They can take care of everything for you. And once again, be on WBRN.com, BigRapidsDailyNews.com, as well as follow along on social media. We got those scores for you, and we'll keep them up to date there in the side column for all their districts and respective numbers, as we'll get that all sorted out here on the website as well. So it's going to be really fun to follow along here, Joe, and we'll see you here in a week, and we'll be talking about district champions. It's a really fun time to be alive.
It's a blast to be alive right now. I can tell you that much. But like we said, make sure you shoot us a message. Let us know who you think is going to be able to get it out of the districts and who's going to be some people to light it up in this postseason for CSAA, baseball, softball, MHSAA, the likes of it. We want to know. Shoot us a message. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, watching, whatever you are doing. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Peace.